Tampa, Florida. And from there, now I work, like Angela said, in BNY Mellon Wealth Management. Um, it's really been a, a passion of mine, really, to just understanding how finance works or understanding the things that I didn't learn as a kid as well. And so I had the same ideology that Angela spoke of, as far as money growing on trees and how to save it and keep it, right? So with that, I just kind of wanted to get in the habit of starting to give that information back, or at least spreading it to where a you start thinking about those things at a younger age, right? So I think that's the most important thing, of planting those seeds, from the jump, so they grow, so students grow, and children grow with those values, and that thought process of saving money and investing it, etc. So without further ado, I have a presentation up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just one moment. So here we go. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. So with the Rich Preteen, I like to, the first things first, I like to go ahead and usually I give to students, I give a example, or a sort of an icebreaker, right? And the first question I ask is, I describe this picture, and in this, you see the luxurious mansion on the left, with the, 1999 Honda Civic, as well, right? And to the right, you see the, nice quaint house with the 2021 Lamborghini. And so I usually pose this question as, which side do you prefer, the left or the right? And I think it's interesting to see people's perspectives on this. So I pose the same question to you all: which do you prefer? And please feel free to type in the comment box, left or right, and let me know. Left, left. I see left. Okay. I mean, personally, I would choose the left too, with nothing against the right, because I would love, I would love the car as well. Trust me. Um, but it's understanding people's perspectives on what you know those things bring, as far as the house, the car, and the different types of assets they are. Uh, my dad likes to write. I agree. Um, so with that, a couple of things that we're going to go ahead and get into. Uh, let's see here. So a couple of topics. We're going to talk about what is financial literacy in the first place, right? And then it's going to go into saving, investing, borrowing, and is going to go into or credit, excuse me. And then, we'll have the question and answer period at the very end, excuse me. So let's see. Let's go here. So the first things first is understanding what is financial literacy. And financial literacy is just understanding how money is saved, spent, and the use of it, and understanding that money is a tool in the first place. If you understand that at an early age, you'll be able to utilize it effectively, and you'll be able to understand the value of money, more so, and be able to um, save that extra dollar or two and have it work for you in the long run, you know. So let's see here. What I like to do from there, um, is go into understanding what what are assets versus liabilities, right? And this is an important step to explain when talking about financial literacy, because as you get older, you need to understand this so that you, when you're doing your balance sheets or when you're understanding what provides value in your house versus what takes away value, right? So assets versus liabilities. Can someone in the chat box, how about this, tell me what an asset is in the comment box? Something that makes you money. Also, assets are expandable. Okay, property. Something that benefits you. Okay. So let's go here. Assets. Asset is a resource that provides economic benefit, right? So you all were all correct as far as the asset providing value in the end. So some examples of that are, cash, a house, land, things of that nature, right? So those are all things that can provide money or our money in a sense, right? So, and on the opposing end, what would be a liability in a sense? You type it in the chat. Let's see here. Debt. Okay. Something that can bring you down. Okay, interesting. Responsibility that costs money and will lose value. All right. So let's see here. Liability is something that someone owns, usually a sum of money, right? So um, as as opposed to the cash, debt would be a liability. You have a house or a mortgage would be a liability, right? And you have a car. A car is actually an asset, right? But unfortunately, most cars depreciate in value. I won't say all because you do have some exceptions. Most cars depreciate in value as opposed to a house that appreciates in value or that can go up in simpler terms, right? So a car note would be the thing that would be considered a liability because you owe that money, you're paying that money back, right? So let's see here. So first things first, we're going to talk about saving because you can't invest, you can't understand credit without saving the money first. So it's important to understand that when you start receiving your paychecks, incomes, allowances, things of that nature. I wish I had an allowance. I didn't get an allowance, but it would have been great, right? When you start understanding that, when you get those things, you need to develop those habits, right? As far as being able to put money aside, save up to a certain goal, save money so that you don't touch it, or even use that money that you save to invest in something else, which we'll get into investing a little bit later. One of the examples that I like to use, or a example of a rule that I like to pass on is the 10-10-80 rule, right? And of course you can save money. There's no one correct way to save money. You can save money any way that works for you, or you can allocate your money the way that you like, right? But the 10-10-80 rule is this. You take 10% of, if you have $100 for the week, right? You take $10 of that and you save it and you put it away to where you don't touch it, right? Um, you take $10, you put it into, that's the money that you would give charitably or you would give away or things of that nature. And then the $80 is what you would use as far as you know, your ink or paying when you don't necessarily have bills, but your entertainment, you're going out, you're hanging out with your money that you would disposable income, right? Or bills or things of that nature. So that's one way to just separate it, but at the same time, like I said, there's no correct way. You can put 50 of it away and use 20% to, give away, and then use 30% for what you like to use it on, or 40 of it you can save, and then 30 and 30. So it doesn't matter. So it's just getting to the habit of being able to save money, and being able to uh, take that habit and move throughout life, right? So what I have here is a small activity that we can all do, right? And this is a building a budget. So I get 9 for allowance. So 225, yes, 225 works just like that. So with this activity, what we're going to do is, if you have your notepad, or if you have a notepad, pen, paper, pencil, uh, it'd be a short activity. And what this does is, you're going to be able to understand how a budget looks, right? So this is one thing that I never got the chance to learn or understand when I was younger, or middle school and high school. So what we're going to do here, and really quickly, is be able to say, you take $100, right? You have a total of $100 for the month, and you have to use $40 to $50 for your living expenses, right? So with that, you can choose between 40, 45, $50, but your living expenses has to be that amount. Your entertainment, you're going to budget for, whether it be, 20, 30. And you're also going to have as much as, a car. So your car, know how much your car would be. Now, of course, the more you want a nicer car, the more money that you would put towards it. Here's the key though: the car insurance has to automatically be half of the car amount. So if your car is $20 per month, then your car insurance has to be 10. If your car is $10 per month, then your car insurance has to be 5, so on. From there, you have your savings amount, and then you will have your charity and your giving amount. So it's really an idea to see what's important to you, right? So we're going to take about 5 minutes. You can go ahead and do that, or copy it down for another day. This is something that'll help you understand, what you value, and how you would like to, and where you would put your money to, right? So and go ahead and give everyone a second to do that. And I'll ask you about one of the categories in just a moment.
All right, so all of you are on the call, and he's asking you, Mr. Cross is asking you to make a budget with a total of $100. Let's see who's going to make the best budget.
And let me make this clear: there's no wrong answer here. There's no wrong answer at all, right? So just be aware of that. So there's no right or wrong answer at all. The only right answer is to making a budget in the first place. So we'll give it about 2 minutes, and then we'll go from there. Yes, you have to include all the spaces. So we give about 1 more minute, and then we'll move on. That is a great question. All Alrighty. I will go ahead and start. And then I'll ask you about a category, and everybody can put the number that they put for the category in the chat box. Okay. So my living expenses are $50. I put my entertainment as $10. Um, my car is $10 as well. So that means my car insurance is automatically $5. So I put $15 away for saving. That's just because I prefer to save that amount, and as well as my living expenses are high because I just like a nice house, as we pointed out before. Um, and my charity slash giving is $10, right? So let's see. So for everyone's entertainment, right? Put your entertainment amount in the chat box. Okay, 15, 10, 10, 20. Okay. $10, $10. Okay, okay. 12, okay. 5. Now, how much was your car amount? 37. Okay, 20, 20, 10, 20, 20, 20. Okay, okay, 21. $10. Angela, I understand. 60. Okay. All right. So you kind of see where you will put more of your money to. And that's the important thing about budgeting. You understand how what you value, what you put more of your money to, and what you wouldn't. So each month also, there's no one strict time of budgeting because everything new things happen, new things will come into your life, and so you have to rebudget all the time. And that's important to understand as well. There's no one time to do it. It's not a one time fix all thing. So just understand that. And when you start, or when you get to that point of making budgets, or making yourself budgets for when you want to save up for your car, or when you get to you want to save your allowance for a certain thing, that's the more important thing to understand. What am I looking to save, and what am I looking to pay for, and how can I save towards that goal, right? All right. So investing, right? And everyone loves this term. It's always luxurious. Everyone, that's the first thing that they hear is the stock market when it comes to. But investing is a little bit more than just the markets themselves, right? So I'm gonna break it down a little bit. But before we get to that, who can tell me in the chat box what's the difference between rich and wealthy? So these are two different terms that a lot of people get mixed up a lot of the times. So if you want to put the definitions for, okay, rich has money. Okay. Rich is money, wealthy is, okay. So is it better to be rich or wealthy? Which one would you rather be? Just choose which one. Wealthy, rich, wealthy, okay. Rich is money and wealthy is the amount of properties and assets. Okay, wealthy, wealthy. Okay, okay. So rich is having a large amount of money and being able to buy or afford things, right? Just being able to make large purchases. That's what rich means. Wealthy is to be able to sustain that large amount of money, and it can be passed down generationally as well. And that's the most important part. You want to be able to have wealth or assets that you can pass down, things, whether it be money, assets are more than just cash as well, right? So, houses, land, things of that nature, those are things that you can pass down generationally, and that's wealth in itself, right? So just understand that you, it, you have to be, you technically have to be rich in order to be wealthy, if that makes sense. One kind of goes into the other one. So now we're going to go back into investing and talk about what it means to invest, right? This wealth means you can keep up with expensive things. Okay, go back. Sure, we can go back for a second. Does wealth mean that you can keep up with expensive things? Generally speaking, those expensive things are, expensive things are passed down. So that's what that really means. Like it's just having a large amounts or expensive things that are passed down through generations. That's what that means. So what we'll do is, matter of fact, we'll go ahead and save these for the end of the presentation. Go back. So what it means to invest, right? Investing is being able to commit money towards financial gain or financial return in the end. So understanding that there are a few ways to do it, and it doesn't always mean money, right? It doesn't always mean money. You can invest in a business, for an example. Investing in a business would be to kind of build the business yourself. So instinctively, let's use something as small as M&Ms, right? Everyone loves M&Ms. Everyone loves M&Ms, and let's say you bought a 30 pack of M&Ms for $20, right? You want to start a candy stand or whatnot, and you bought that for $20, and you sold each M&M for each pack of M&Ms for $1 each. So technically, you've made money by getting back $30, right? So you've invested $20 to get back 30. And that's what investing means in simpler terms, right? You make a $10 profit. Exactly. So the bigger thing is to understand people invest in a business, and so Islam. So right, that's the bigger part. Just being able to understand that there's a profit that you're looking towards by investing that money, or at least breaking even, correct? Let's see. Investing in companies. So when you invest in companies, that's where the stock markets come in, and that's where buying a share of a company comes in, or owning a stock of Apple, or a share of Verizon or Facebook or things of that nature. That's what it means to invest in companies, and that's how people, a lot of people keep their wealth by having their money in the economy, and so it grows as the economy grows, right? So if I buy a share and it's $10 today, and then it grows to $20 next week, so technically I've made $10. There's also the downside of being able to lose that as well. So that's the big part as far as understanding investing in companies. And then the major part that you all would have to learn, or that's important to learn, is investing in yourself, right? So spending the time to buy those books, buy those podcasts, or listen to those things to be able to invest knowledge in yourself, right? There are numerous ways to do that, and there's always a greater outcome when you take the time to educate yourself on certain things, or even looking to better yourself in things. That's honestly the first part to where you should invest, if anything, not just the markets, not anywhere else, but invest in yourself to be able to grow and understand more. All right, here's a slight rule that I like to mention as well. So the rule of 72, it essentially is the time it takes to double an investment, right? So here, if you see on the diagram here, You take 72, and if you're looking for the investment rate, correct? You take 72, the number of years that you've invested in something, and they can give you divide that by the number of years that you've invested in something, and it can give you the investment rate, right? Or vice versa, if you have the investment rate of something and you're looking to see how long it will take to double. So if I have a 9% investment rate of something, and I'm looking to see how long will it take for this amount of money to double. So I'll say, okay, let me take 72, let me divide it by 9 years, right? And then I'll have, or 9%, excuse me, and then it'll come out with 8 years of in return. So it'll say, okay, well, it takes 8 years with this 9% rate. This amount of money I put will take 8 years to double. And that's what that means, right? So just keep in mind that, and that and compounding interest is a friend of yours now, right? Because of time. So compounding interest is the amount of interest you gain on investment, and talking about the time value of money. So being able to understand that if I have $1 and I say, and each year it goes up by 10%, right? So 10% of $1 is a 10 cents, excuse me. I'm sorry. 10 cents, right? So being able to understand that. So next year I'll have $1.10. And due to compounding interest, it'll take 10% of the $1.10 that I have. And so the year after that, I'll have $1.11, right? So that's essentially what compounding interest is, just being able to add on that interest year over year over year. Now, when you start small and when you start early on in life, you'll be able to grow small amounts of money to larger amounts of cash and assets by the time that you're ready to retire or get out of school or things of that nature. So that's why I say understand compounding interest at this age is important. Okay. So I know that you all have questions. We'll get to them all at the very end. Just hang tight. All right, let's see here. So let's spend a minute or two talking about credit. So credit, or borrowing rather, because that's essentially what it is, right? Where when you have credit, or when you have credit cards and things of that nature, you're borrowing an amount of money. So what is it? So tell me this in the chat box. Is credit bad, good, or you're not sure? Good. Okay. Credit is good if paid back, good and bad. Not sure, maybe bad, can be good, can be bad, I think. Okay, good and bad, depends. Good if you have good credit. So credit is actually good, right? Good for my mom, bad for some people, and good for some. So credit is actually good. It can be bad if misused and mismanaged, but credit is actually good, okay? The important part of credit is understanding this. It's a method for paying for goods and services with the idea of paying you back. It's borrowed money, but the good part is if you pay it back, then essentially people will know that you can pay back things on time, or you can manage your credit well. And that's when you get to have the car loans and the mortgages that we spoke on earlier, and being able to have higher amounts of money to be able to borrow, right? So credit is good, but you just need to pay it back. That's the most important part. So let's see here. Understanding with the credit comes interest, and with that's the thing that you have to know what you're getting yourself into when you trying to establish credit, because you will need it in the future, right? The biggest part is understanding that your interest rate or whatever it may be, whether it's a small amount or a big amount, or that's the added on amount to your principal, which is the original amount that you of credit that you have. So I like to say that if I have $1,000 worth of credit and there is a 10% interest rate that, comes with it, then, I would have to pay back $1,100, right? But it's just understanding that it's it is added on to the principal amount, but if you pay it back, it's good, and companies will be able to see that. That's where, i.e., a credit score, if you've ever heard the term before, it comes in, and just understanding that. So it's better. Establishing credit is just as important as when you go on through life. It's just understanding how to use it and what it is. So let's see here. Do wealthy people need good credit? A lot of wealthy people probably already have good credit, or they have means to pay off their credit, right? So yes, generally speaking, yes. But all right, so thank you all for the presentation. We have reached the end, and I'm glad to say that that was the last part, just trying to understand what you have to do as far as saving, investing, and credit wise, right? So those are three main topics that you can take with you that hopefully when you go from here, you'll be able to understand more, or even read about more and try and get into habit of practicing those things for later on. So now we've reached the question and answer period. I know that there were a lot of questions, so ready when you are.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director for Family and Community Engagement, Dr. Felita Lewis. Dr. Lewis, are you there?
Good evening. I am. So first off, I'd like to say, Mr. Cross, thank you so much for that very valuable information that you were able to share with our parents and some of our learners that we have on the call tonight. As I was reading through some of the comments, I was really intrigued by some of the questions that were posed, because it tells me that, number one, we did have our participants actively listening, and they were also comprehending, because I did see that some of them were then coming back and providing you with responses to some of your questions. And I think I might have even learned a little bit tonight. So I do appreciate you taking the time to share with us a little bit about financial literacy. And I'm sure there's so much more, if we had more time, that you could have shared with our panel. So what I'd like to do is, we do have some Q&As that have come in right at the very end. And they're not in the chat, but I do see them in the Q&A. And so what I'd like to do is, for the first, actually, I initially said we were going to do the first, but I think what we'll do is we'll do the first three, Mr. Cross. And so from the Hillsborough County Schools Family and Community Engagement Department, what we'd like to do is, for the first three people that have opened it up with their questions, we're going to gift them with one of your books. And I don't know if you have one of the books handy that you could share with them on the screen, but we certainly want to put the link in the chat so that if they'd like to read a little bit more about what you presented today, then they have that option. So I will allow you to respond to the questions, but I'd like to recognize Tanya Smith. Then we have Achilles LaRosa, and I do apologize if I'm not pronouncing your names correct. And then we have a Latasha Henderson. So what I'd like to do is, for those three individuals, if in the chat you could tell us what school you represent. If you are a parent if you will put the name of your child, that will be helpful. And if you are a student, please let us know that you are a student. And then what we will do is we're going to purchase the book that accompanies this presentation and send it to the school as a gift from our Family Community Engagement Department. So Tanya Smith has a question about how old, and that may be in response to the question about the how old do you have to be for the credit card. And if I'm incorrect, Tanya Smith, please correct me and then perhaps put it in the chat for us. Then we have Achilles LaRosa that has a question, if I was to buy and then resell. And then there was the question by Latasha Henderson. Let's see, it says, I think there is some kid debit or credit cards. So although that's not a question, it's still a response, and we appreciate you, Latasha, being actively engaged. And I do know that they do have kid accounts because both of our boys, 16 and 11, they do have a teen account at our credit union. But I want to make sure that even though Ms. Henderson, that's not a question, but you are actively engaged, and we want to honor you with that gift as well. So at this time, I will turn it back over to Ms. Fullwood and Mr. Cross to finish us up with the Q&A.
All right. Let's do the middle.
Did you want to answer the question?
So the original question was, as far as what's the age for a credit card? Am I correct?
Yes. Credit
So
cards.
Yeah, I want to say that it would be it has to be the teenage years. I would ask your local bank or whoever you're banking with, and as far as their specifics on it, because they also have secure credit cards, which are at a younger age that you can try and look into as well. And the idea of a secure credit card is this: if I have $200 and I give the bank the $200 and they give me a credit card with a $200 limit, essentially what that says is like, hey, like I've kind of prepaid it, but I want to build up my credit using this. And so with that being said, like they have the limit on there as well as what you've already put on there, money wise. So it allows you to build up your credit as a safety measure with already the amount that you put down or given the bank, right? So I would check with your local bank. I believe it is around maybe 16, 18. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure they vary with each bank though, as well as parent. An extension from a parent credit card is the age of 13, they start building their own credit. See, exactly. So I would check with your bank as far as that.
All right, that's a good question. Very good question. Do you have any other questions? I do have a question about the budget, because I think for me, that was one of the biggest challenges to get to and to understand, to work within a budget.
Right.
Because I saw when you were typing out when some people were writing about how much they budgeted for certain things, someone put in there $60 for something, and it actually took them over that $100 that they had. So my question is, when you're budgeting, some of the categories that are put in there, so sort of like giving, or there's certain items that you can't, like utilities, like you have to pay your utilities, but and then savings, what are some other categories that can be adjusted in order to fit the budget that I have?
Okay, so essentially with that exercise, I'll speak on that one, and then I'll speak in generally, right? So with that exercise, when you look at it statistically speaking, when you look at your rent, or when you're looking at owning a home, you try to buy 30 to 33% of your income, your total gross income, what you bring home, right? So or net income, excuse me, what you bring home. And so with that, let's say the net income was $30. And so I added the extra 10 to 20 as far as utility or um, utilities, or if you wanted a nicer house or whatnot, right? So with certain things, you can control like your like we all have living expenses, and we know that that's a block out of our budget, that's just, you just don't touch, right? So with that, you can kind of expand on your entertainment, or if you need to cut down because you want to save up for next month, that is what at least coming into the budget, the budget is for, is being able to write out what you have planned. And if I need to take out $5, let's just say for simplistic purposes, $5 out of my entertainment because I need $5 for the next 2 months for this certain goal that I have, then we go from there. I mean, it all comes down to being that discipline in the end. And I think that's the hard part for everyone, is just understanding that and sticking to it, because there's nothing for to want to get up and just, all right, random Friday or weekend to say, all right, well, I think I'm gonna go here instead. And then you have to stick to your budget or your goal to be able to say, okay, well, I can't do that. I can't do that this weekend. So yeah, it's other categories. Let's see, maybe because I always look at my entertainment category first, if anything. It's I always look at it to say, all right, well, I guess I can stay inside the house, or I can't do this, or I can't do that this month because I'm saving for this. You have your it all boils down to the categories that you kind of make in the end, right? Because after your rent or your living expenses, and then utilities, and then like let's say if you do have a car, and then kind of your savings, what else do you allocate your money to, right? So do you have a sports fund, that you pay for this gym every month, right? Or do you play football or baseball, or it costs this much to be at this park, or you know you know do you take a trip every weekend, or every month? And so being able to take from that and just kind of rearranging it. But after the core values, it all, after the core, I guess, categories, it all becomes a part of, what do you do in your life you know that you would have to budget for, or that you normally spend money on per month.
Okay, thank you for that. And I see we have a lot of middle school students. And so Latasha
Hmm.
Henderson was asking, should you always have a budget for a high school or middle school student who doesn't have bills, per se, living expenses? What should they have a budget, and what are some things that they should consider? I know you talked about a few, but just think about the middle and high
Hmm.
school student.
So I remember, and I can even speak on a personal experience. When I was in middle school or high school, I had, different things like I bought my own video games coming up. I bought my own things for entertainment coming along. So even when I, had money, I set aside stuff for things I want to buy. And I would set aside things for, money that I needed later. If I wanted to go, you know, somewhere, if I wanted to go eat, or if I went out with my friends to, we went to the skating rink or bowling or whatnot. So it it all comes down to yeah, you don't have bills, or you don't have certain things like utilities and things of that nature, but you still have things that you want to do, right? So if you get a certain allowance, if I get $10 a week, I'm still going to try and put aside some money to be able to say, okay, well, I know I want to go out 2 weeks from now, or I know I want to go to the, well, we had an eighth grade dance, but you know. But I want to be able to go out, hang out here, or I want to be able to go to the movies or things of that nature. So I still set aside that money for that, right? So it's not just about having those a balance sheet, you know. It's still about having and understanding how to allocate my money so that it gives me the longest value in return.
Thank you for that. And I see there's a question about, sorry if you went over this, but is there a class at school that goes over this? And if there is, what is it called? So I did reach out to some of my high school colleagues, and there are courses in high school. They should take economics or a financial literacy class. Those are a lot of your choices that you have in high school. And I know there are some junior achievement in 5th grade. I know even down in elementary, they go to junior achievement. There's some junior achievement lessons on the real world budgeting and finance literacy, which they go to a center. I'm not sure if they've been doing this recently, but we have what we call JA, and all 5th graders have a job. They get a paycheck. They have, you know, they have to open up a bank account, and it kind of teaches them that financial literacy. So in 5th grade, in the past, I don't know if they're starting to open up, but they used to do junior achievement. But if you are a student and going to high school, you might want to consider taking economics, home economics, and or some type of financial literacy. Make sure you speak with your school counselor when you are deriving what your courses are going to be, if you're interested in that. So I wanted to ask that.
No,
Jana Lazo wanted to know about the definition of interest. Wanted you to kind of dumb down that definition a little bit of interest.
I got you. So, and to your point, I remember Enterprise Village, where we went and had a job and had to balance the checkbook and stuff like that. So I remember all of that. Interest is the best way to say it is the amount that you also owe. So if I borrow let's say $100 from Ms. Fullwood, and she says you owe me $10 of interest. So what I have to pay back is $110 now, right? All interest is the amount that the bank or whoever is charging you to borrow the money. That's the best way to look at it. So it costs $10 for me to borrow $100 from Ms. Fullwood, if that makes sense. That's the easiest way to put it. It costs that amount of money. That's the money that's going to cost. Generally speaking, it'll come in percentages, but just for simplistic value, let's just use a whole number, right? Like $10. So if I say, hey, I need to borrow $10, and she says it's going to cost me $5 to borrow $10, now I have to pay back $15, which is a high percent of interest, but we're not going to go there. But yes, that's really what it is. It's just the amount. It's just the cost of borrowing that money. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, because I see someone says my parents are going to help me make a bank account because I'm going to put $100 in it. They owe $100 in allowance and decided to give me $100 more to start a bank account. So I'm going to save up and be able to buy a car when I'm older. Very good. All right. Let me see some more questions. Okay. Someone asked, what are some cool things about money or bank account?
What are some cool things?
Well, let's think about like some cool things about some of those bank accounts that are interest drawing.
Right. So essentially, I mean, money is a tool, you know, for freedom. Let's think about it that way, right? In the long run. Some cool things are, being able to put money aside and to be able to watch it grow. I think that's the best part. Being able to see your money kind of sit there, work for itself, and then being able to, interest be able to be added on to it. Now, granted, some savings accounts you might get pennies on the dollar or things of that nature, right? But even if you have a share of a company or invest in the stock market, right? Being able to sit there and watch your money possibly double or move up is the cool part about it. Being able to sit there and watch it grow. With more money, you're able to do more things in life. That's really what it is, right? So with more money, you're able to do more things. So being able to watch it double without you having to really do anything but sit there and watch it is the cool part about it. Being able for it to, it's like a plant. You just sit there and just it grows on its own. It moves by itself, and it's able to you'll be able to do more with it in the long run. I can't see it getting much cooler than that. Can you
No, no, and I think most people are afraid of that, like what stocks to invest in. I know that might be a little bit above um, their heads, and so a lot of kids are asking, when should they get a bank account? How young? How old can they be? Like, how young can they have a bank account open? And so with that, I know we answered that question, but what about stocks and bonds? Can students invest in stocks?
so a lot of it, at a certain age, you can look into certain apps like Acorn, Fidelity, or things of that nature that are more, how can I say it, that are backed. Acorns is good because it's a smaller amount, right? So it takes the change or whatnot that you may have used or left over in a transaction or in your card. So if something costs $1 or something costs $2 and you use $1.50, it'll charge you $2, but that 50 cents will go into a small account, right? So it'll take that extra money that you saved over into a smaller account to start saving to invest in. You can start probably high school. I think the best time is just after you've done your research and after you've learned, and after you've done your reading and looking into certain things. Um, I don't ever give advice. I don't. Um, I just recommend looking into it before you do it, and always look into it, especially at this age with your parents, to be able to help guide you on the situations on what might be a good investment or what might not be. I think that you can always practice at a certain age to understand how the economy works. Um, I think the best thing to do is always invest in what you like, right? So if I like Nike shoes, I'm going to look at Nike as a company because I'm interested in it, right? If I like Starbucks coffee, I'm going to invest in Starbucks because I that's something that I look into or I'm invested in, right? So it's important to understand that there's no one size fits all when it comes to it. There's no strategy that you just buy when it's low and sell when it's high. There's no one way to do it. The best thing you can do is sit down with your parents and be able to take the time to research different apps or different you know investment vehicles for a younger age, and be able to sit down and put that maybe $50 or $100 to try and practice, or maybe birthday money or something like that, to see how it works and how you like it, how if you don't like it, if you don't want to do it, things of that nature. The the best thing is this: we're able to have these conversations now, which are important, so you can have this time, that extra time, to sit down, have the talk with your parents about that. um like I said, I always stick to investing in what you're interested in and going from there. right? I see it.
I
Go
think
ahead.
we have one more question. Which would you recommend, debt or credit?
Well, credit can bring debt. I think those kind of run hand in hand. Um, Maybe she meant debit. Um,
Oh, debit. Could be debit. Could
could
be
be debit,
debit. Like, I
debit
think when they're at
cards.
the, yeah.
So, I always think that I mean, personally, I have a credit card and debit card, right? I think it's always important to have cash on hand. And I think that if you have the capability to pay it back off, you should use a credit card to help build your credit, then pay it off, right? Like you shouldn't just use it, max it out, and just leave it. Like that is the worst thing to do. And I'm not recommending. I'm glad this is on record. I'm not recommending that at all. Be able to, you know, I think that important are, they both have their points where they're important. So
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cross, for being with us tonight. We really did enjoy this session. And I do want to say about credit cards, I was taught to try not to use them. You would use them for emergency purposes and, like you say, pay them off. And when you do your budget, I was always taught to, well, I wasn't always taught, but most recently I took a course and I was taught to, like, say if I budget $100 for groceries, go out and take that money out of the bank. Because if I use my debit card, which is attached to my bank account, and I'm putting groceries on there, if I go over 100, it doesn't hurt because I'm just so wiping. If I have the cash and I can't use a card, then if I go over, after they swipe, beep, 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 and it's 110, then
now you
I
have
have to
100.
decide which items I don't need. So it really helps. And then you stay within your budget. So I was, like you're saying, cash. I was always a believer. I don't want to carry cash just in case, you know, somebody tries to steal my wallet.
Right.
So I was always worried. I was like, I can easily, cancel my cards. That was easier for me. But this course taught me, when I'm going to the grocery store, if I budget $100, whatever I budget, have that amount in cash to make sure you don't go over budget. And then that way, because it hurts when money is leaving, when cash is leaving your hand, like, I have to give this 20 away.
I have to give it away. I have to hand it off.
Right.
So it's true, because I've been there and I've done it, right? Like it does hurt. And especially when I say cash, I mean a debit card as well, just be able to have that cash on hand where you need it. But as a budget to practice self-discipline, I've definitely done that. How much cash do I need to give you? And so I totally understand it.
Right. And it's like telling your money where to go, instead of, you swiping all the time and you're like, what did I spend the money on? And you have to go back to your bank and like, oh my, I forgot I went here. I forgot I went here. When you have cash at those, when you budget, you know where your money is going. And so
Exactly.
yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that was a lesson learned for me. Recently, I'm into really getting my finances together, because I didn't have this knowledge when I was in middle school. So students, I'm so excited that you came on to learn more. We are planning on having more of these sessions, and hopefully you'll be able to see Mr. Cross at your school. If they might have sessions at your school with him, and you'll be able to bring your parents and learn more, and he can go deeper. Again, this was only an hour session, and you will again learn about economics in school. That economics course, I just found out, is a requirement in high school. So
the first course I had to study for.
Oh, probably what got you started with
Right. No, it is. But thank you. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on as well. You know,
So with that, do we have any other last sayings, Dr. Lewis?
I do. I would like to give a special thanks to Madison Castro, and I did write in the chat that we will also be gifting Madison one of the books from Mr. Cross. And
Congratulations.
yay to Madison. And I believe it's her brother who's in elementary school that will be transitioning to middle school coming up. So, and if it's not too much to ask, we will ask Mr. Cross if he can autograph those books
oh,
for us.
definitely.
And then what we will do at some point within perhaps the coming month, our team will make special deliveries and go to the schools to deliver those texts to the students or to the children of the parent. I think there was a parent, Miss Tanya, that has Kingston at one of our schools. And so we will make sure that we deliver that book to him as well.
Awesome.
So that's a personal gift that we are purchasing from Mr. Cross for those 4 participants.
Yes, and make sure we put our YouTube channel in the chat. So make sure you get the link and subscribe to our channel. So that you will be getting any notifications. This recording will be uploaded to that channel. With that,
Ms. Fullwood, I'm sorry, before you close out, and I do apologize. I know that Ms. Brown put the YouTube link in the chat, but I would also like to let all of the parents as well as the students know that you can always find information about our team on the Hillsborough County Public Schools website. And if you go to departments and click on family and community engagement, you will see some additional resources that we have coming from our department available there for you as well. Okay.
All right. I put family and community engagement, and that's our department. So with that, I want to tell everyone good night and thank you for being with us. Take care.
Ms. Brown.